Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe right now. We got over 1,000 of you now subscribed all around the world. Really goes a long way. All your support, and yeah, really appreciate it. Make sure to like the video, share the video. You know the drill. Just make sure to subscribe as well. Today I'm here with a pretty cool guest. I'm here with the very talented Bianca Orsi. How you doing today, Bianca?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little about your career, how it all started. Talk to me a little bit about, how your musical journey kind of began, Bianca.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Northern California. My career started back around 13 years old. I started training professionally in opera and going to voice teachers, taking piano lessons. I think for opera singers, we have to start young because there's so much technique that's demanded of us. Um, so it started around 13. I just did lessons all the time and all the things that go with it. And then after that, I had to go on to college and I took it serious and I had to start performing, and there were teachers, there were demands. So it really started with academia. And after I graduated with my master's from USC, that's when it was like full throttle, going into the business, managing that by myself. So it was pretty intense. I mean, yeah, it's been years and years of studying.
So fight on, right?
Absolutely. I'm a very proud Trojan.
Yeah, USC is like an awesome campus. I got a chance to visit it like a lot of times when I used to do interviews like for different radio stations. They used to use it, so it was pretty awesome visiting USC. It's a really nice campus. But talk
Mm-hmm.
to me a little bit more about like what you were listening to like growing up. What kind of music were you listening to? Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a very old soul. I feel like we're both the same. When we wake up, we're listening to 70s and 60s and rock and roll.
When you're listening
So
to even older stuff, so like
yes,
40s and
even
50s.
exactly like even 1930s jazz I love. So when I grew up, my dad would play this around the house, and I was listening to Frank Sinatra at like 10 years old and all these classic oldies. So that kind of like grew my roots into the passion for the old sound and having that old soul. Um, so it just started there. Once I started hearing jazz, I developed a love for music. And then I noticed my voice could not just sing jazz, but it could really hit high notes. So one of my teachers one day in high school said, Bianca, you need to do opera. You not just because you're Italian, you need to do opera. So I took my first lesson and I never looked back. And so really what really inspired the music of the old times is what inspired me to sing, because I was just so drawn to the truth behind it, the musicality, and how well people sung. It wasn't music like now where there's a lot of auto tune and enhancement. It was raw vocals that really it just touched your soul. So that's what led me to have that passion. Yeah.
So like you were like singing like first, or did you play the piano first? Like what when did it kind of start like music in terms of that?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I definitely started singing first because when I was 13 years old, my mom gave me my first ever karaoke machine, and I was singing like Britney Spears, like "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time," and just pretending I was Britney. So it started with singing, and my mom would hear me and she'd say, "Oh my God, my child can sing. What's happening?" Like she actually kind of could imitate the artist. So then I went into my undergrad, and that's when I started piano. So I've been taking piano now for over 6 years. So piano, it's a skill where you have to practice any instrument. You have to practice every day because you can lose it if you're not consistent. But really, I mean, I started with singing. That's where it started.
But like once you started taking piano, did you kind of go like into depth and like learning how to read and write music, or was it kind of like a gradual thing? How did that kind of
Yeah.
would you kind of go into it thinking I want to make my own music, or were you just kind of like learning the instrument, piano?
Yeah, so trying to write music came later. When you go to college with a music degree, they make you do piano. You have to sight read. You have to be very well versed in music theory because especially when you get an opera score, it's a language. You have tons of notes, you have key signatures, you have times and rhythms. So you have to be proficient in that language. And it's a whole language. Musicians will understand because I think some people that do it as a hobby, they can use their ear or do basic chords. But when it comes to really mastering your technique, it's a whole language that you have to learn. So, yeah, what really came first was the singing, then the piano playing. And then while I was at LA, tons of my friends were doing songwriting, and I thought, I can play piano, I can do that. And then I started with Spotify and Apple Music, and I wrote my own stuff. So, yeah.
So you kind of just did it all on your own then to start it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't have a well, I've collaborated with some producers, but the original stuff I started with my first ballad on the piano that I wrote.
Now, do you feel like music is like kind of like your calling then? Like if it kind of just came to you then?
Oh my
How do you see
gosh.
about that?
I think for a true musician, it's not even a calling, it's you can't live without it. Because I think there's one thing to like music, and then there's one thing to have to live and breathe it and do it daily and have it in your regiment. And that's my situation. I could not live without music. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you started around like 13 and so you started writing your own music and kind of like trying to go like pro in this then like after college or what's the timeline with that?
Yeah. So with classical studies, you usually have to get the training first. It's very important because your voice has to be ready when the opera comes later on. So I started with the studying. And then as soon as I graduated USC in 2019, they said, the world is yours, you're off. And nobody kind of really prepares you for the music business. You have to develop those business skills later on as you grow and you talk to people and you negotiate and you do contracts. Nobody prepares, even college, they taught you, languages and notes and singing, but they did not teach me music business. I had to navigate that myself. And it's quite, for a girl, it's quite intimidating. There's a lot of things that can be challenges, but they make you stronger.
So this you graduated like right before COVID then, right? Like COVID hit
Yes,
like
right
the
before.
so how did that happen? Like how was the challenges? Everybody I know like I dealt with a lot of challenges in my career during
Mm-hmm.
COVID. Like how did it go for you?
For me, it was a privilege to graduate when I did because, I got to walk down and graduate, get my gown and all that. And the year right after, it was all virtual. There were no shows after that. It really, everything did shut down. So I was very grateful that I got to get the accurate college experience. Um, and, I had a lot of performance opportunity at USC. I got to be in West Side Story. That's actually where I met Mark Hamill and the original cast after the show.
So you mentioned like a teacher, but like what about like people that maybe inspired you to sing, like maybe artists or I know like for
Oh, yeah.
opera, like talk to me a little bit more about that.
Oh my goodness, there's so many. Well, okay, if we focus on opera,
Yeah, to
Maria
start.
Callas,
Yeah.
yeah, Maria Callas is huge. I mean, she is the goddess of opera. I also love bel canto, so I love people like Joan Sutherland's wonderful. So I don't know if you know bel canto. It's a very specific Italian style of singing, and it's very fast. It takes agility of the voice. So those are probably definitely Maria Callas is my top tier. She is like the diva of all divas. I love her. Um, for more jazz and stuff, I love Frank Sinatra. I love Ella Fitzgerald, Peggy Lee. Really, those classic tones that are strong and people just never get tired of hearing them. And then I love soul music, Etta James, Aretha Franklin, Whitney, Mariah, Celine. I just love good vocalists. I don't, even nowadays with music, I don't care for vocalists who use autotune or can't sing well live. I just value that because that's what was demanded of me with my studies. You have to have the raw talent first. You can't rely on editing. So, yeah, those are some of my faves.
Now talk to me like, being Italian and, singing opera, like how is that? Like, talk to me more about that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. If anything, it's part of my culture. I embrace it. And it is very helpful because I am surrounded by the language. So majority of operas are in Italian. They are also in many other different European languages. Um, so I embrace it. I think also my culture, my people, Italian people love opera. They can really appreciate it. They're very passionate people. They love the finer arts. Yeah, it goes hand in hand. It's like my yin to my yang to be Italian and then also be able to do opera. It's like it fits like a glove. Yeah.
So like when you started doing like more shows and kind of went more pro in this, like have you changed anything with like how you do stuff? Like do you still enjoy what you do or is it like more pressure? How has that been?
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think as you progress in your career, the pressure can, especially opera. I mean, opera is so vulnerable. The audience is quietly listening to you. You have the orchestra, you have all these things you have to take care of. Um, so absolutely, because as you increase in your career, the demands are higher, the venues are more competitive. You go from like, singing maybe for a little festival or retirement home, and then you have to go into like a full big stage full of thousands of people. But I was kind of blessed where my first debut right after college was in front of 5,000 people.
Wow.
So I had to just jump into it.
Where
It
was
was
this
with
at? What venue?
it was at the Stockton Symphony. It
Okay.
was like a sold out show for a Phantom of the Opera concert.
Wow.
And I was so nervous. I was like, get it together, girl. But I kind of just got exposed to it like that, which I think helped me prepare for that's the expectation. Show them what you got. Be prepared.
Do you feel like the
Yeah.
opera world's really competitive then? You feel like it's very
Um,
competitive?
It is. I would say musical theater is more competitive, actually, but it's demanding. And usually, when you are at a show, um, there will be critics. So the stakes are higher. They will critique your show. They will critique everything about you, your singing, your just everything. So, yeah, so much more at stake. I just try to enjoy everything I do, and those are the only kind of projects I take on. I don't take on anything I don't like.
But you like singing opera the best then, out of all the stuff you do?
That's a good question. It fulfills my like I love to be challenged. So it fulfills that need to be challenged musically. Whereas if when I do weddings or outdoor events like festivals and they say, oh, sing some Aretha Franklin respect. To me, it's like, that's easy. Like, so opera challenges me musically all around as an artist, from the notes to the technique to everything. Whereas, if somebody said, sing Fly Me to the Moon, um, get up and sing Fly Me to the Moon, I mean, that's like waking up and drinking a cup of coffee. It's just easy. It's easy to an opera singer, right? Yeah.
So it seems like an opera singer, you have to kind of be hard on yourself and you have to challenge yourself to kind of be the best then. It's not like other genres, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because there is a certain technical requirement that is needed of you. Um, I mean, just in itself to get up and sing over like a 60-piece orchestra, no microphone. Like people have to process that. With pop singing, you
Got no
have your
amps. Yeah.
mic, you can do effects, but opera is just you, your technique, your body, and your voice. So yeah, it's way it's way more demanding, but it's more satisfying to me because I don't know, I personally think people appreciate more the classical arts. Like when I get into a theater, I feel the audience is more appreciative. Whereas like if I go to a lounge bar or something and sing, they're kind of like, they're drinking like, oh yeah, that was great, man. And it's not as satisfying to them in a sense. But teach their own.
So speaking of other genres, you sing like different stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So what other stuff are you singing? Like what other music are you into? Like you mentioned that you kind of started singing like pop when you were young.
Yeah,
But yeah, talk to me a little bit more about what other stuff you do as well.
absolutely. Well, funny story, I started singing jazz. That was my first thing. Um, People thought I started with opera. Actually, no. When I was prior to 13, I was listening to jazz. So I do jazz a lot. I do jazz gigs all over. I have a wonderful Donizetti opera coming up. So I do a variety of everything. I also have musical theater. I'm super excited. Next week, I'm singing James Bond music for a big concert. So I'm excited that I get to explore all these genres and learn about these characters. And, they're fun. I like to do things that just give me that satisfaction. And, yeah, I think it's good. I would encourage every artist to expand their horizons and try different genres, but do it correctly. Because if you try to sing jazz operatically, that sounds really whack. Like I've heard some opera singers try to sing like even Britney Spears and they try to do it head voice and it does not work. If you're going to do other genres, make sure you can do it correctly. Because if not, it could sound, you know what I'm talking about? Like if
Yeah.
somebody tries to sing rock, well, you can do it operatic. Actually, rock, you can get away with head voice. But
Yeah, there's been some pretty good operatic
yeah,
rock
it
singers for
has to
sure.
be done correctly.
Freddie Mercury, he got away with it. I mean,
Oh yeah,
he was
but
amazing.
I still think Freddie, because he worked with Montserrat Caballé, an opera singer. I still think Freddie though stuck to more his chest voice than
Yeah.
full. Like he didn't sound like Pavarotti. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
for sure.
So yeah, so explore genres, but know how to explore them.
But how do you switch from one genre to another? Because I mean, sometimes you're doing opera shows, sometimes you're doing like, jazz or, rock.
Yeah,
You do that too. So like how do you do all that?
yeah. It's well, I was kind of self-taught, but you have to understand the anatomy of your voice. Anything jazz or pop, you're going to use your chest voice, which is more your talking range. Whereas opera, it's strictly head voice. We call it here like you're singing from your third eye. Um, you can mix though. A lot of genres will require you to mix. You have to understand how to access both those parts. And it's all technique. It's all technique. And it's also like imitation because I used to imitate Frank Sinatra and, Ella Fitzgerald. And for some reason, I just learned how to use this chest voice. But you have to understand to place the voice. Is it chest? Is it head? Is it mix? There's like a whole science behind it. And you have to understand the anatomy and how to access it.
So how did you develop your technique or your own style? Because I know there's like a certain technique to sing every genre, but then how did you kind of put your own spin to all those different genres and make it your own? How did that happen?
Yeah. Um, I think what's important is I just always had a certain tone. I'm Italian and Latina mix. So sometimes I throw people off when they hear my soul music. They're like, wait, that came out of you. So I just learned to find my true voice and not imitate people.
What has been like your most like rewarding like moment or like show you think so far in your career?
Ooh, good question. Mm, there's one that really sticks to my brain. So actually, when I was 21, that show I was telling you about that I debuted with the thousands of people. When I was doing Phantom of the Opera, the duet, there's this very high note at the end. There's a high E, and I nailed it, and I could not believe it. The whole audience stood up and applaud mid the high E. It was like, oh my gosh, the feeling. I was overwhelmed with joy. That sticks in my mind. I'll never forget. It was like this high on stage. It was amazing. So that sticks out. I think also another thing that sticks out, I was singing for this family. It was just a funeral, and Chris Isaac was in this, like just watching me sing. Chris Isaac. I thought, wait a minute, what? So it's always rewarding when there's kind of celebrities watching you sing. I think it's really cool. It's like, wow, this is an awesome moment. And I think one that's coming up, I'll be singing at the Gallo Center of the Arts. I'm doing Elixir of Love. And I think that's going to be very rewarding for me because it's a beautiful opera and I really get to show off my technique with it. So I really believe that's going to be very rewarding.
Now you mentioned like singing in different kind of shows, like sometimes funerals, sometimes happy events
Mm-hmm.
and all that. Like how do you like manage that? Like your emotions and like it must be
Yeah.
difficult, like singing for different audiences and different like occasions,
Mm-hmm.
right? How does that work?
Yeah, you definitely have to adjust your emotion. And it's hard because, especially even when personal life hits you, you have to shut that all out and do your job, right? So, if there's funerals or weddings, I have to adjust to the mood. If it's a wedding, I have to be cheery. If it's a funeral, it's more serious. Um, and then when it comes to opera, your emotions kind of step aside and your character matters. That's very important. So, yeah, it just really varies each performance. I think the most comfortable I can be with myself is when I do my own shows and I can choose the music that I relate to. Then I feel like I'm playing myself. Um, And I think also in acting, when you're singing and acting, you have to channel, because a lot of people say, like method actors will say, get rid of yourself in the character. It's just the character, it's only the character. I don't believe that. I think you have to bring yourself into the character as well for it to be genuine. I get that advice a lot when I've done coachings or master classes that you're not Bianca anymore, you're somebody else. It's like, no, you're kind of both. You're actually both. I don't like that advice. I see that so many times in master classes where you do have to become the character, but you don't have to lose yourself. You have to embody some sort of your emotion. So that's important. But yeah, just you know, you have to be serious in moments. You have to be happy in others. I had to, as we say, become a boss. So, and
Become a
not to be
Trojan.
soprano, but you have to. You're dealing with the sharks. You
You
just
gotta be
have
Tony
to.
Montana, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, Scarface.
Yeah, that's
It's
like
a
my
whole
favorite
other
movie of all
topic.
time. I mean, you already know, but that's one of my favorite movies. So yeah,
Yes, and we both share that love for, you
yeah, the
know.
mob basically.
I mean,
Yeah,
I love Goodfellas. Scarface and Goodfellas are, and The Godfather, absolutely.
yeah,
It's
I love
cool because you're
the
not.
soundtrack for The Godfather is like the best. I mean,
Oh, for
the best.
cinema and music, absolutely. I mean, Nino Rota, like, amazing, amazing. I'm glad you like that because some people are like, it's okay, and I'm like, you don't understand.
Well, no, I mean, I think because thanks to my parents, they exposed me to like really good music when I was young, and also like movies and all that. I got a chance to see the Godfather like soundtrack get performed live. I
Wow,
believe it
that's
was
awesome.
at the Microsoft Theater in LA. It's
Oh,
not called the Microsoft
cool,
now; it's called the Peacock. But I got to see
nice.
the whole thing get performed live. So like, I remember I went when I was like maybe 13, 14, so I was pretty young.
And that's good. You accept and acknowledge and also have appreciation for classical music, not just rock. You
Yeah,
know,
well, and I started when I was young. I played violin first. That was my first instrument. So, I mean,
that's
I
amazing.
started with violin when I was 9 years old. So that was my first instrument. Yeah,
And violin, because I know a lot about instruments, is one of the hardest to
yeah,
learn.
for
Yeah,
sure. When you're a kid, it isn't though, because you're so young. You can figure it out. But
yeah. But you
yeah,
have to be a kid to start it
yeah,
because if you try to start at 25, it's not going to work.
no.
It's not like piano. It's not going to work. Yeah.
So like this is like a rock and roll show. For those that are watching, I always kind of interview like bands and all that. So talk to me more about your love. I know you're really into rock too. So talk to me more about your love for that genre.
Absolutely. I mean, my top bands, I love Queen, I love Led Zeppelin. We both love Kiss.
Of
Clearly, you
course,
have Kiss
yeah.
on
Kiss
your
Army right
shirt and
here.
behind
Right.
you.
Glow in the dark, and then I got my destroyer. Yeah,
Yes, we both love the Kiss Alive. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
got it right here.
It's like right next to you,
Yeah, I got it
Dave. You
ready
like
to
sleep
go.
with it under your pillow.
Basically, yeah. I know. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's the best live album of all time, in my opinion. The first one, I think
Yeah,
it's the best one.
definitely. I also think Led Zeppelin, Madison Square Garden. It's like
Oh, the song
19.
remains the same. That's the name of the album.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one's
that
good.
was amazing.
Yeah,
And I'm really glad there are tribute artists doing that because a lot are retired. I know Rolling Stones was just touring, right?
that's right.
Um, but I'm okay with tribute artists as long as they do it justice, I'm good with it. But I've seen some tribute artists and I'm like, wait a minute, that is nothing like Freddie Mercury. So you know what I'm saying? You have to do it justice and make it kind of believable.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, speaking of Freddie Mercury, I saw that. I don't know if you've seen. This really good. I wanted to shout them out because hopefully I can get them on the show soon. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've seen Queen Nation. They're a really great
Oh my
tribute band.
gosh, heck
Yeah,
yeah, they're
yeah, they're really
great.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They go all over. They do they're one of the top in the US actually. Yeah.
for sure. Now you're also into like old rock and roll, right? Like the not just the
Hmm.
classic rock. You're talking. You like the beginning of rock. Talk to me more about like the origins of rock and maybe like how that is important to you. Because I know you even sing. You recently did a show, right? An Elvis show, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, that's, interesting. Elvis, the king of rock and roll. He really was. And I think in the sense of not just his style of singing, but how he embodied rock and roll in his body. I mean, to move, he kind of created that sexy rock star, with groupies. He created that image. Oh, absolutely. I get hired a lot because I have a high soprano voice. I get hired a lot for Elvis shows. I'm working two are coming up this month and next month. So they always have me as a soprano, and I kind of have that soulful sound, so they like me for backup singing. But absolutely, I could probably sing almost every Elvis song or try to. Elvis was my first introduction to rock and roll. And then I started to see like Chuck Berry, and kind of after Elvis, Carl Perkins was also a good one. And then it started to go into I love the hippie movement. I love psychedelic, Sergeant Pepper, Jimi Hendrix. I don't know, I love San Francisco, so I love that hippie. That's where they came from, the Fillmore West. I mean, that's where they all were at. So, really, it just started to evolve. My hippie, I feel like what's funny is my hippie era of Bianca was last year. I was like obsessed, and now it's like Goodfellas Bianca came.
Last year you were all into the rock and roll stuff, basically.
Absolutely. And I still am. Like when I wake up, rock and roll by Led Zeppelin wakes me up and gets me to work. But I've kind of now channeled more my Italian American culture this year. And I love, Italian American movies and music, and especially more opera. And I'm very excited to be singing in New York this summer for a huge festival. So here on the
That's
West
awesome.
Coast,
Yeah.
yeah, here on the West Coast, Italian festivals, they might last, 1 or 2 days. In New York, this one is going for 13 days. I was shocked. So I'm so excited, and I get to show them opera and also, pop music and other things. So yeah.
So when is this festival you're going to be doing in New York?
Yeah, it's in Brooklyn, Our Lady of Mount Carmel Giglio Festa, and it's July 15th. I know it's a weekday, but again, it goes all the days. So if anyone's in New York, come check that out. And I'll be doing an interview in June about that. But I'm excited. I think every artist, it's not good to just stay in your little hometown. You have to expand. You have to explore the world because there's so much need for music.
Talking about shows, what are some of your favorite shows that you've been to?
Ooh, like it could be non-opera, right? It could be
Yeah,
anything.
non-opera, like anything. Yeah, you go to a lot of concerts, right? Not just to perform,
Yeah,
but I mean just to watch as well.
yeah. I think I love rock and roll shows. That's definitely top five. I also love, like, they're going to have at near me, Modesto, California, the Gallo Center of the Arts are having the whole score of Indiana Jones. I love score and orchestra and music. That's one of my faves as well. And I love going to opera, but I'm picky about which operas. I like Verdi, Puccini, Donizetti. I like certain operas, and if it's not that, I don't really go. um, and I love musical theater, like Broadway, and what are some recent ones? I just saw Jesus Christ Superstar. That was interesting. It's the story of Jesus, but in a flamboyant musical way. Um, but it did it justice. It's still, as a religious person, it was respectful. It wasn't, too crazy. But I like
Well,
everything. I'm
well, speaking
diverse.
of like crazy, what's like the craziest show you've been to?
Oh my God. I don't know if I can say. No, I'm kidding.
No, this is YouTube. It doesn't matter. Like
You're
doesn't
like,
make
you
sense.
can do whatever you
Yeah,
want.
it's like it doesn't matter.
Mm, you know what? In San Francisco, they had like a mini Woodstock vibe. I can't remember the festival, but everybody was like barely clothed and
Wow,
smoking some. Just,
some
it was like,
grass.
it reminded me like you were time traveling back to Woodstock. What's the name of it? I'll have to write it down in the comments somewhere. But that one was pretty wild. Um, some of the rock shows. I recently just went to like a Beatles versus the Stones
Oh yeah,
tribute.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it was
It's pretty
great.
fun.
The
Yeah,
Mick Jagger's great. He's like a
yeah.
friend. And there were so many drunk people, and they were like falling off their chair. I'm like, y'all need to calm down. This is, we're in a yellow submarine. Like, what is happening?
That was like
It
my
was
favorite song as a little kid, Yellow Submarine. I
really,
used to
I
sing that
like When
like,
I'm
yeah.
64. That's catchy. I like
Okay.
that one too.
Yeah, when I was like a
Yeah.
little kid, that's like my favorite. But I don't know, for me, the craziest show has to be, I mean, Kiss at the Madison Square Garden. I mean, the
Oh, it
last
was
Kiss show
wild.
ever, it was insane. Because it was like everybody was there like so early. They were there like an hour before, And I don't know, the energy in the show was just insane. That last show,
Yeah.
and it was incredible. It's like my favorite like rock and roll memory, along with probably AC/DC, who I saw recently, because that was
Oh,
like
were they
really
great?
they
I
were
saw
amazing.
that.
So loud. The Rose Bowl. Yeah.
How was his voice? Because AC/DC has a very high
I
voice.
couldn't even tell. I was just so into the music.
You're
I
like, he sounded 20. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it didn't matter because I was like I couldn't even hear the crowd. It was so loud. Like my ears were ringing
Wow.
for like a week.
You lose your hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's usually
basically.
how it is. I did the Kiss Hollywood Bowl, and that was more not wild. It was actually beautiful because they had a fireworks show after.
That's right. Yeah.
So it was actually quite calm because the Hollywood Bowl is outdoor and you can't, I don't know, there's a lot of space. The seating's interesting. It was more outdoorsy and calm, but I can imagine the Madison Square Garden must have been, it's the final show. It's iconic.
Well, I don't know if it's the final show, Bianca. I mean,
Yeah, it's
talking
not
about Kiss, like, what
anymore.
do you think of the band coming back together? Do you want to see them come back as a fan, or do you think it's like they should just call it a day?
I know for Gene Simmons, it seems hard to call it a day. He likes to not only tour with Kiss, but with his band, and he keeps trying and trying. And I think that's great. I get it. If you're a performer and you still want to go and you can do it, do it. But this little residency at Vegas, I personally think it's overpriced. I think they should allow fans
Yeah,
to
way
get
overpriced. It's
tickets.
like a thousand
Yeah,
dollars to get in.
you have to get a package. It's almost like a cruise.
Yeah.
You have to, yeah. So I'm not a fan of that. I think that eliminates a lot of fans actually from seeing it. Um, they're a great show, one of the best I've seen live. If they want to have that show at the Virgin Hotel,
Anything
go
but
for it.
versions, but
Where's it? Is that where's that again?
yeah,
The
the
venue?
Version Hotel. Yeah,
How ironic that name for
yeah.
Kiss. But yeah. But I'm for it. I just don't like how they priced and have the packages. I think people should just be able to go to the show and not like it's a cruise where you have to get a vacation package. No, like,
Who's
yeah.
who's your favorite like member of the band?
Oh God, I think everybody that follows my social media knows this. Um, it's definitely Star Child.
Oh my God, has to be Star Child, huh?
It's
For me,
just,
it's the Catman. I don't know, it's a
I
weird pick, but I
know
like the
that's
Catman.
unique.
He's an
Everybody
amazing
thinks and
drummer. I mean,
doesn't
come
like
on.
him.
His drum solo on Kiss Alive is like iconic. I remember listening to
He
that like
is.
for like when I was 8 years old, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is a great vocalist. Like I wish he would,
Yeah.
he really is. Peter Criss is amazing. So I've heard good things about Paul Stanley and also there's something about his aura, how he sings, and I'm sorry, he's kind of hot.
Oh my God. Yeah,
The
no,
ladies
but
will
I mean,
understand.
yeah, because I mean, Kiss is like one of those bands that like I don't know. I think they'll always be like forever remembered. I think they're
Yeah.
legends. I wish like they would come back, the four original guys. I don't know what you think. I wish we could see the four of them again because I never got a chance to see the original band.
Yeah.
Of course we have, they do a great job, Tommy and Eric, filling in, but
Hmm.
it'd be cool if we saw the four original members, wouldn't you say, Bianca? At least for
Absolutely.
one
Because
show.
yeah, our generation, well, they did that, I think, around the 90s, 2000s.
Well,
They
yeah,
did
but
a
we were like
reunion.
2 years old.
We
Like,
were children. Exactly. We're millennials. We need
yeah,
a new
yeah.
reunion, but I would love to see them original together, all them together. And I don't think they're gonna do it though.
You don't think so?
No, too
Oh,
many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah, too much ego. And I think they're all kind of doing their own thing. Ace Frehley has his own band. I don't know
even
if
Peter
you
Criss, his first album in 20 years.
really. I
Yeah,
know. Tell me about that.
yeah,
You're all hyped up because that's your favorite.
yeah. I'm ready to go. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna try to interview him. Invitation to Peter if he ever wants to
Wow.
come on. Be great to
That'd be
talk to you.
awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome. Yeah, you should do the whole team. But what's interesting,
yeah.
we were talking about this how they're having headliners for their Las Vegas show. There's tribute artists headlining. That's
That's right.
unique. That's unique. I've never heard that's like ACDC having an ACDC band tribute opening for them. That's a little interesting. I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've interviewed. I've interviewed a pretty prominent, Kiss tribute band, Mr. Speed. I've interviewed them. Interviewed some pretty awesome tribute bands. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You have. And I think what they do is great. And obviously the tribute bands that get to that level, it's because they have the funding behind them, the fan base. You're not gonna there will never be a tribute band that gets to, sing with their idols that are in like Minnesota and they have like
Oh my God.
members that don't
That's
even
where I
live
that's where
like.
I saw them in Minnesota. So
Are you serious?
yeah, that's right. That's where the interview was at. It was for my other radio station I was working at, and I
Yeah.
got a chance to see him there in a small little town, Montevideo, Minnesota. And yeah, that's where it was. Wish there was
The
more people at the show,
Midwest,
but yeah, it's kind of
the
empty.
Midwest loves that kind of genre for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think even more so than the West Coast. The West Coast, I noticed in the music business has a lot of like Spanish influence, like reggaeton, um, pop, rap is a huge one here. And that's why I'm really looking forward to expanding my singing like in New York and elsewhere in Europe because I just feel like the West Coast kind of it needs to change. Like they need to accept maybe older genres. And I wish the Grammys would honor that. They have jazz and sometimes other genres, but it's always those other genres that win, not the more old school, like Steven Sanchez. I don't know if you've heard of Steven Sanchez.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I don't really know his
He's
music, but I know who he is.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, he's like a young Elvis for our
yeah.
generation and no Grammy nomination. No, it's like so sad. Like he is so talented. But we're always catering to what's commercial and what's, in. I don't know. I disagree with that. I think we need to focus more on like actual musicians and talent.
I think we just need more rock and roll in the Grammys. Like, there's not
I
enough
know what
rock.
happened to that.
Yeah,
It like died out. Like
really
it's
annoying.
sad,
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
BS how they just ignore it.
Absolutely. I feel
Yeah,
like the only thing we can relate to now that's kind of big, like maybe Zeppelin would be Greta Van Fleet. Um,
they're okay. I'll leave it
they're
at that.
okay. Well, you know what? A lot of people say they imitate a lot Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin, which the vocalist is amazing. I mean, he is great. But I totally can hear it musically.
Yeah, and speaking of music like 50, 60 years ago, because we're talking about that, do you think like
Mhm.
you would have been more famous if you were singing like 50, 60 years ago? Like you're doing like music that was pretty popular back in the, 50s and 60s and even early 70s. What do you think about that? Like, if you would have been in that era, how your career would be
Mhm.
different.
That's interesting. It's hard to predict like what woman in the business kind of dealt with because I didn't live that, but I absolutely think the way I sing and how it's so natural to cater to the old soul genre, those older genres, I think it probably would have. Because it's unfortunate. Like, New York has wonderful jazz clubs and so does San Francisco, but is it commercialized anymore? No. They actually told my friends that had jazz majors at USC, like, listen, you might get here, but jazz is dying out, unfortunately. And it's really sad. The genres that I really love, like even disco, soul music,
I love disco.
oh my gosh,
I should have
disco's
never said that though. I'm probably gonna have to cut this out, but I'm not supposed to say I
what?
like Yeah, I mean, come on, I'm a rock and roll guy. I'm not supposed to say I like disco, but
But
now it's
disco
out
kind
there.
of, yeah, but no, you have
It's
the
your
right to
fault,
love
Bianca.
whatever
You
you
got me
want.
to say like the illegal. I should have never said that.
No D word.
Yeah, no disco. Yeah, but yeah,
No, I'm sorry. Donna Summers is, oh my gosh, I love her.
ABBA.
She's
Yeah, come
amazing.
on, Bee Gees.
Yes,
Yeah,
they're amazing. I know some people find disco a little lame. I think it's amazing dancing music,
yeah.
but
No, and the music is great
absolutely,
too. Like it's so groovy. It's so funky. It's great. Like it's not just the
yeah,
dancing. Like the music's actually really
yeah.
good if you go back and listen to it.
Oh, it's great. I When I think of disco, I think of like pulling up to the Copacabana in the 80s and just sitting there being cool. Like it's so cool. The disco era was amazing. And also the fashion was so amazing. But I think absolutely if I were to go back in time, I could fit in like a glove. People have actually said that when they hear me sing or even see kind of my aesthetic. You're very old soul, Bianca. Like you look like you could fit into like a 1940s jazz, orchestra. I'm like, I know because I do believe we have past lives, and for some reason, I might have been back in the olden days, and that's okay. I will own it.
So
But
talk to me a little bit more, because obviously you're in 2025, putting yourself out there, making a name for yourself in the music
mhm.
business. And now we have this thing called social media, right? Which is like you can't be a musician now without it, which is kind of crazy. Because
Yeah,
on the old days, people just used to just make music, do
hmm
shows, and put it out there, and that was it. Now you got to also do social media. So talk to me about the challenges behind that. And now I know you kind of do your own social media. And
hmm
talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think social media is very important for a singer. It gets your advertisement out there, it gets your music out there. When we've had this conversation before, I think social media is a curse and a blessing because with that access to the world, you also get this incoming wave of also maybe bad things, bad comments, bullying, cyberbullying. So social media is great. It can really influence, but I always, for me, the purpose of my social media is to show the world my music, upcoming events, and things in life that make me happy. I keep it very professional and focus on that. I'm not going on social media ranting about who won presidency. That's to me. I like to keep my privacy. I like to hold on to that as a performer because I think if you expose too much, people can use it against you. So I think social media it's both. It's a pro and it's a con, and what you make use of it matters. And I always say this in my post, be classy and sassy and know your worth. So I focus on my talent, I focus on inspiring people, and I think if you have a good purpose behind your social media, it will pay off.
Because people like are on social media like all day now. It's like kind of rough,
Mm-hmm.
I think, for people our age, right? When it comes
Oh,
to
it's addicting. I mean, imagine yourself if you lose your phone for like an hour, you freak out, right? You go crazy. I
yeah,
do. I know I do.
crazy.
It's totally addicting. Like I said,
You gotta stop sending
people,
me
yeah.
reels, Bianca. Jesus, gotta.
That's what you do. I just send you the funny, like Italian American, like
Yeah,
Sopranos.
I send you. I think too many.
Social media can be a wonderful thing, and you can also meet amazing fans and friends. I have to tell you, like, I have made some lovely friends. And you know what? If they're negative or there's trolls on social media, just block. Don't even, block, ignore, welcome in the positivity, eliminate the negativity. That's my
Yeah, because
motto.
that's like that was my next question. Like, what's your advice to like many people that are like young and want to do music and they're
Yeah.
afraid because like there's always like hate, unfortunately, from
Mm-hmm.
people in any kind of art, not just singing. Like how do
Yeah.
you deal with that? Like, do you just kind of focus on yourself and be like, I think I'm good enough and I don't care what people think about me? Is that how you kind of take this on?
Yeah. I think self worth is gained through your own self. I think trying to seek validation and having other people give it to you is not the way to do it. Um, with age and with, growing up, you become wiser. Um, so I think, having that confidence within is number one. And like I said, I've had to deal with this past month. Just some people want to troll, some people want to say, that's really what bothers me. When people think they can comment about music, they're not even a musician. They have no idea of what it takes, the technique. They're just sitting there trolling. Block it. Block it. And who cares if you lose fans? Who cares? Do it for your sense of peace. Do it for your mental health. Um, yeah, I know you've experienced it too. We both have.
Yes, for
And
sure.
yeah, it's not fair. There's creeps, there's weirdos. You have to set your boundary.
Now, like, is that like you talked a little bit about mental health and challenges? Like, is that why we see so many like musicians and artists deal with like drugs and alcohol abuse? You think?
Yeah.
Because it's
And
really kind of tough.
it's good to talk awareness about that because especially rock and roll, it's very prevalent, especially in Los Angeles. I mean, I saw even at USC, just being in college, I saw alcohol use, I saw drug use. Personally, me, never done any of, obviously I've had margaritas and tequila. I think every Latina has, but I've never even smoked weed in my life because opera singers, I'm very strict with my regiment. But it's good to know that as artists, if we feel depressed or have anxiety, go to help, go to therapy, go to the people that love you. Don't try to seek validation and fill that void with drugs, alcohol, things of that sort. And it's hard because sometimes people around us are doing it and we think it's cool. We think this is the answer. It's no, that path will lead to destruction. It will. I've seen it. And it's really sad. I've seen some of my friends pass. I've seen, um, it's sad. It's sad, the reality. And people don't want to talk about it, but be surrounded by people who love you and can guide you to make the right decisions.
Well, Bianca, it was great talking to you. I don't know if you have anything else to add or any advice or anything else you want to add here to close it out.
Ooh, well, I definitely want to shout out some of the shows I'm doing.
All right.
I think the big one that people can come to is in New York City, Brooklyn, New York, the Our Lady Mount Carmel Festival, July 15th. If anyone can go, that's in East Coast New York, please come out. It's our show is later. It's all day performing. We're around 9 o'clock. And then also with the Folsom Lake Symphony in Northern California, I will be singing for 2 nights, June 7th and June 8th. And we'll be performing music from the movie. So I'll be doing Titanic and James Bond. So if anyone can come, you will have a wonderful time and you get to experience how I sing in person. And I think just advice I can give anybody, you know, lead with a goal in life with your music, lead with goals, lead with good actions, and hard work always pays off. I'll never forget this opera singer. She told me, if you're at a little company or you're at the Metropolitan Opera, if you are talented and driven, it'll always pay off. And it does. That is true facts. So do not give up, keep going, and life will show you the reward of it.
Well, it was great talking to you, Bianca. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I love talking to you too.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, make sure to subscribe and stay heavy.